It's been such a lovely season for the Spirit Halloween sneak peeks, but now we ask the age-old, pivotal question on everyone's lips: how will hauntformer rank them?
For all things Halloween, this is hauntformer, and I am back to once and for all wrap up the sneak peek season of 2020 by ranking the entire lineup of animatronics and a few statics at Spirit Halloween. This has been perhaps one of the greatest years for Spirit Halloween animatronics and sneak peeks. I remember back in 2013, before this community was, I think, as big as it is today, and I remember that the sneak peeks for Spirit were basically them posting the prop with a white background, just the photo, on their Facebook page, and that was it. And if you were in the loop, you were in the loop. I remember going out of town to hotels and going to the computer room in the hotel just to look up Spirit Halloween's Facebook page, and it perhaps was one of the reasons I got on social media in the first place, was to see those sneak peeks. And here we are, 2020, like 7-8 years later, and now we have these professional videos, but really what makes the sneak peeks fun is the community. So I want to say thank you, because all of you have left kind comments, you've been giving your suggestions, some of you have agreed with me, some of you have disagreed, and I like that different people have different inputs. But with that being said, this is mine. So remember and keep in mind that my opinions are different than yours, and obviously I'm going to like and not like things that you may like or not like. So I have a total of 25, yes, 25 animatronics. Hopefully I'm not missing any. At least these are the core group. I'm not talking about any tabletops or things like that. Some of these are online exclusives, but I threw them in anyways because why not? There's a lot to talk about. I have my trusty phone on me to look at all of these. There's like a huge list. So let's jump into the ranking. At number 25, lowest on the list, no surprises, Johnny Punk. There's so much that's been said about Johnny Punk. I think most of the Haunter community is in agreement here that this is a weak animatronic, and some people are going on record saying it's the worst prop of all time. I don't know if it's the worst prop of all time, but it's certainly up there. It's certainly in the top 5. And I think the reason is there's nothing very scary about it. I get what Spirit was trying to do with this edgy kid that's like gonna beat you up or something, but there's no implication of anything scary. The funniest thing to think about, and other people have mentioned this, so this is not my idea, but I just found it so funny, is that Johnny Punk, one of his phrases while he's swinging is like, "You better get out of here. 3, 2, 1. And then he just stops swinging. It's just so dumb. Not a good prop. I'm sorry. I like the hoodie, the mask. It kind of reminds me of the Slender Man masky character, but just no. I'm sorry, no. And I'm also not a fan of the swinging props. I think they look a little bit childish, in my opinion. Moving on to number 24, we have Angeline. Now, that's a controversial decision. The polls have been split on this animatronic. Half of the people think this is a great prop. A lot of people said it was in their top 5. And then there's me and a few other people who think this is not a good prop. I think it looks too weird to be taken as a legit real girl. Had they gone with the ghost look, I think they could have pulled it off better, making her look decrepit, but the fact that she's supposed to look like an actual girl in the cemetery does not work when she has that weird, uncanny face. It's just off. I'm just not a big fan of the cemetery props either. I think if it's really well done, I'd like it, like the shovel tombstone. But when it's something like this, and you have to really have a specific way of incorporating it into a display, it's just not for me. But I'm glad some people are liking her. At number 23, we have the black and red jumping spider, and this is a quick one. Essentially, I like the jumping spiders. I've always liked jumping spider. it's just a different color scheme. There's nothing new about this at all. I only put it above the other two just because I really didn't like Johnny Punk and Angeline. But Jumping Spider, great prop. Nothing really to say about this one. Nothing new. Therefore, it goes here. At number 22, we have the Wailing Phantom, which we saw back in January at the Halloween and Party Expo, but that's not why I don't like this one. I don't like this one because it's generic, other than the eyes and some of the movement. But the voice is very generic, the look is very generic, but above all else, the price is ridiculous. No one should pay that much. I think he's like $350, as much as Krampus. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't probably pay more than like $175 for this thing. And even then, I wouldn't get it in the first place. It's not terrible for what it is, but it's... No. I forgot where we are on the list, so I'm just going backwards. I think we're at 21 now. Twisted Tina. A static. Nothing exciting. The price is not really the best. I think you could do a lot better. You'd rather get the Plague Doctor, who's also static, which I'll talk about in a second. But, I mean, she looks fine. I guess some people can get a use out of her. Not my cup of tea, but not really that remarkable. Up next, we have Mommy's Favorite, which is a prop that a lot of people were hyped for when we saw the quick little teasers, but upon further inspection, you realize that this thing doesn't have a lot going for it. I've seen pictures of it in person at the stores, and it looks bad. The face is, like, squished in and warped and weird. Maybe that was just one of them, but regardless, it's $100. It turns side to side and says little phrases, but if you put this in a haunted house, no one's hearing the phrases. No one's hearing about her dead mom. It's a little creepy, but even then, maybe if she had no eyes or something weird, but she just looks like a little girl. She's a glorified American Girl doll. So, yeah, that's Mommy's Favorite. Up next, another controversial pick of mine, Uncle Charlie. I know so many people are like, Uncle Charlie, oh my gosh! And he was the first sneak peek, so everyone was happy. But, in comparison to the original Uncle Charlie, he is very lacking. I don't think he's as good as the original. I think the original was creepier. The face detail was way better. And just, in terms of just being a clown prop, it's very standard. There's nothing stand out about Uncle Charlie, hence the lower ranking on this 25 tier list. Yeah. Up next, another clown, clowning around, which is, I guess it's kind of a staple SVI clown. He's got two kids. I like that one of them kind of flails around. That's nice. But it just doesn't do too much for me. Unless the clown is very original or has something cool going for it, like the Peekaboo Clown, which I'll get to higher up on the list, it's not really that impressive. And for the price of $300, I think there should be something a little bit more impressive to it. That's just my opinion. So, yeah. Up next, we have Mr. Salty, who in concept should be higher up on the list, but in execution I felt was very severely lacking. I didn't find this prop scary. And I know some people have said, Hauntformer, it's a clown, they can be funny. Yes, but if I'm buying it for scary purposes, then I want it to be somewhat scary. And even if you go with the argument that it's amusing and okay, haha, there's a little clown named Willie that pops out, he's still $350, which I wouldn't pay for it. I think he looks fine. The little clown in there looks fine. The mech itself is cool, but it doesn't jolt out fast enough to get a reaction, and it's played for laughs, and I feel like by the time the little clown pops out, people have already walked past it. That's just my opinion. I'd like to see him try again with the trench coat thing, because I like the concept. Maybe even have, like, something gory or gross underneath would be cool too, but just the two clowns making jokes back and forth was kind of a letdown. Up next, we have Fright in the Box, which is your standard Jack-in-the-Box with the turning mech on the side, and of course he pops out. What I don't really like about it is the head is just attached to some fabric and really isn't a full fleshed out clown in there. Which is okay, but you also then can't charge over $200 for it, and they are. Now, I feel like this is one that's going to be bigger in person than the video makes it out to be, but even then, I still don't feel like the price is justified. I think it's okay, that's why it's kind of mid-tier for me, but certainly you could do a lot better this year, I think. Up next, we have the Gatekeeper, a returning prop from way back in the good old days of 2011, 2012 era, maybe even 2010. I don't know. You purists will know in the comments. A lot of people were telling me that they really want this one, and that's cool. I think the price is actually fair on it. It's just not my bag. As I mentioned, the cemetery props have gotten a little bit old. I feel like the cemetery is like a staple of Halloween, obviously very iconic, but with the theming I usually do, more of the alien zombie asylum thing, it doesn't fit, but I still think it's a fine prop. That's why it's mid-tier, but it's not excellent. It never was excellent. I even think back in the day there were things better than the Gatekeeper. Up next, we have Punctured Pete, which came out dually with Marie. He's on his knees, and he has a stake through his heart, and he's writhing, trying to pull the stake out. First of all, I wish it was a vampire, because the stake thing makes more sense with a vampire. But, for what it's worth, I think he's fine. The whole zombie face and the hands look a little generic. I wish there could have been more originality there, and maybe more gore, I think would have sold it better to me. But with that being said, not a terrible prop, very mid-range. A lot of these are very mid-range, where I don't hate them, but I just wouldn't spend the money on them, personally. Up next, Flesh-Eating Zombie, the OG, one of my favorite original Spirit Halloween animatronics from way back, 2011, the Zombie Wasteland. I have the original, so I don't need the new one, though I will say it looks pretty good for trying to replicate the magic that was the flesh-eating zombie. If you don't have the original and you want one, this is about the closest thing you'll get, and I think they priced it fairly. Basically like the original one, so I'd say if you want to shell it out, go for it. But it's also a reskin, you know, it's the same prop we've seen, so there's more originality this year that I think you'd rather spend your money on. But I still love the flesh-eating zombie. Up next, the Harvester of Souls, a very popular prop from this year. Great idea, first of all. Techie Design did a wonderful job. I love the fans in both of their mouths, and the fog effect, probably the best use of fog in any Halloween prop I've seen. A little on the pricey side, in my opinion, but then again, it has a few motions in the fog that I think will justify it for a lot of people, though I have a little complaint when it comes to people saying, well, the height is 7 feet, so that must mean it's worth $300. Remember that all they have to do is extend the cloth on the fabric cape just a little bit, and they can make it as tall as they want. Doesn't mean it's worth the price. Still, I think this is a really good one. I love the design. I don't think it's for me. I don't see how I would make it work in a haunt. If it was on its own at your house or in a display or on your yard, yes. In a haunt, I would have trouble positioning it. But still very cool. Very cool animatronic. Definitely one that I think will be a showstopper at Spirit. This is kind of controversial, and I'm not sure if I completely agree with myself here. These opinions can change over time, by the way. Ellie Hatchet. I know maybe I should have put her below the Harvester of Souls, but to me, I probably would go with the cheaper one than dish out $300 on the Harvester of Souls. Ellie Hatchet, I think, could look better, but the design, I think, is fine, with the hatchet over her head swinging down. A lot of people have talked about the creepy little kids thing that Spirit likes to do, and I think this one is a little more on the realistic side, in terms of, yes, a kid could probably get their hands on a weapon like that, and I could see why people could find it frightening, but it looks a little weird. Her face looks like a Rugrats character, and I don't know, just, it's still mid-tier for me. These are still mid-tier. Now, getting a little bit higher, we have Little Daisy and the Maestro, which is an amazing idea. I love the fact that he's a puppeteer moving this little girl. It's very dark. It's very creepy. I like it. The issue for me is the price is a little much, and they didn't fully commit to the puppeteer aspect. I wish she would be a little more floppy and that he would kind of jerk her around more. I think that would have added to the suspense, or have her screaming more. But she just kind of has this side-to-side robotic motion that I think loses it a little for me. Great idea. I don't think I'd dish out the money for it. But I like the originality of this one, and it's a great step in the right direction, for sure. Also, the puppeteer, I think, could look a little bit better. He looks kind of like a vampire. Up next, the Butcher. A lot of people have talked about this prop. He's going to be one of the first ones most of us will see. He's kind of one of the opening day staples. I know several people already own him, and shout out to you guys. I liked him a lot more when he first came out. I think I've seen some of the flaws with him. I think he looks a little cheaply made. I know the face is made out of latex, and he's not bad. The issue for me is he looks like a giant pig monster when he's supposed to be a guy wearing a pig on his head, but you can't really tell because of the way the eyes look. Still, the fact that we got a butcher pig is pretty sweet. I wish he was a little more gory for my personal taste, but I think he's going to be a good seller this year, and he might sell out. But don't quote me on that, because I'm not 100% sure. The Plague Doctor. Yeah, I've been waiting a long time for a Plague Doctor prop, and we finally got one. Unfortunately, it's not one we're going to see in stores, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if you know the theming for Spirit Halloween, I think this would work really well, especially with his staff. But they're not putting him in stores, and they're probably due to the virus, because might be insensitive. I say put him in there. This is a Halloween store. This isn't Jiminy Christmas. But okay, we got a Plague Doctor. It's very cool. A little overpriced because it's just a static. But for the stance he's in, for the fog, for the lighting, it's a cool package. It reminds me a lot of the Hazmat Zombie. I'd say maybe the second best static after that character. Up next, we have Nightcrawler, which I thought was going to be one of my favorites, but there were so many other cool ones. Nightcrawler is still a great idea. A good price. Looks very large. The issue I have with Nightcrawler isn't so much the monster itself, but the mech. I feel like that popping up is going to wear out really, really fast. And my other issue is it just pops up kind of slow in the video, so it's going to be even slower in person. A really good idea. I think it would have been better if he kind of moved side to side slower, more for a creepy look than a startling look, because that hunched over appearance is going to really jolt people. But the popping up mech, I think, is going to lose it. Though, I love the originality, and I hope they reskin it to make other characters. I'm already thinking like a backbend clown spirit. Write that down. A backbend clown would be a very cool idea, and that's even for someone who's not a huge fan of the clowns. But it's original. You know it is. Up next, we have the Sewer Varmint, which I thought was my favorite one of the year. There are a few other ones that I like more. What I like about it is that it goes well with a lot of things that I do. I like the very mutated, toxic, zombie, apocalyptic stuff. This feels like that because it's a sewer rat with two heads. Almost something out of the Fallout games, if you've played those. But regardless, the prop itself looks big, looks cool, well animated, similar to Cerberus. I like it. I think it's going to be a good seller. It's on the more affordable side, and I think people are willing to pay for it. Now we're getting into the top 5, right? Let me... Top 5. This was a hard choice because, like I said with a lot of these other ones, this year was very creative and original, and I wanted to put the Plague Doctor higher and the Varmint higher, and a few of the other ones higher up, but these, I think, are my personal picks. Coming in at number 5, we have the Peekaboo Clown. And the fact that there's a clown in the top 5 for me is really good. I've always kind of complained about clowns over the past few years because I feel like they've been beaten to death. But this one breathed a little fresh life into the game. Essentially, he's a clown that peekaboos you and has these cool LCD eyes that bring him to life more. Some people have complained about the phrases, but I think they're okay. What really gets me is the movement he has and the affordability of it. I think the price is very fair for what Spirit could have charged. I thought he was going to be $300, but he's not, and I love that. I'm excited to see him in the stores. Don't know if I'm going to get him, but I'm really happy that he exists, and I think he's one of the best clowns of recent memory, up there with Wally, because Crouchy and Mr. Salty and a few of the other ones just weren't cutting it for me. This guy is great. At number 4, we have the Hauntress, who is this spooky, ghastly woman. And what's great about her is the mech. She pops to the side, which we usually never see. Whenever we see something popping, it's either popping upwards or outwards, but she pops to the side, which I think can add a whole new level of scaring to your haunted house or to your display or even in your own home. She looks great. Her price is very affordable at $120, with a coupon even cheaper, so that's always a treat. And I like the popping out stuff because that's the stuff that startles you, it does it, and it resets. The issue with her is that I think she's going to break. I have that feeling looking at her. But very cool nonetheless, very original, and I'm very happy that she's going to be in stores because I thought they were going to try to pull a whole, it's online only, but they didn't. Top 3. Now, the third choice is controversial, but the top 2 I think a lot of people will see coming. At number 3, I have Miserable Marie. Now, Marie came out with Pete. They were like a double combo, and their backstories are that they're married or whatever. I don't really care about the backstories, in case you didn't notice, because you make up your own backstory when you incorporate them into your Haunter theme. But what I love about her is the simplicity of her. She's a zombie, and she rides and moves around, and she has this really gross gargled sound effect. And the detail on her is great, and they didn't put light-up eyes in her. I love that they didn't go with the light-up eyes thing because it's so overdone, and I think the props look better without the light-up eyes, on the whole. There's some exceptions, but on the whole, I like the detail on her, and as you'll see in my number 2 spot, I like the detailed, creepy-looking props. She sells it for me, and I think she's one of the best zombie props, maybe ever, but I'll have to see her in stores to confirm that. That's why these are like 80% true, because 20% is seeing them in stores, and also your opinions just change over time. But now we're down to the last 2 animatronics, and this was tough, but there's one that I have to save for first place, and you know what that is. But in second place, and the one that I'm most likely going to get this year, because a lot of people have been saying, Hauntformer, what are you going to get? It's Miss Mercy. Miss Mercy is easily one of the creepiest props from Spirit Halloween, I think. The fact that she moves in 2 ways at the same time, moving her head and moving her body. Also, the grotesque look of her face, the fact that the gauze has blood on it is awesome. Spirit has, I don't want to say this fully because it's not completely true, but over the past few years I've noticed things have gotten a little tamer, and that's perhaps that the demographic of Spirit has changed over time. There's a lot of younger viewers, a lot of younger haunters out there now, and where we used to get more bloody, gory, monstery stuff, they've kind of let back on that. Not that the stuff is weak now, but just different. And this reminds me of something that would have come out in like 2013 with the Convulsing Nurse and with some more of those gory props. This just looks more intense. Her face looks creepy. The blood on the gauze. The fact that her head cracks and makes the bone cracking noises. There's no phrases to it, too, which I love. It's just laughing and cracking. It's a really solid prop, and for $200, I think this is going to be the one that I get my claws on. But knowing me, and knowing my taste, and knowing what I have to say, and for all of you, number 1 is Krampus. Everybody knows that Krampus is going to be the really hot commodity this year. He is expensive. He is $350, but wow, look at the detail. He looks straight out of the movie. You have the chains, you have the Santa suit, you have the eyes and the face, which looks like the same mold, the big horns. Even from the side, he looks excellent. This entire prop, 360, is great. And I would go on record saying probably one of the best licensed props of Spirit's history, up there with the OG Michael Myers, the H2O Michael, and Ghostface, and there's a couple others like the Frankenstein monster, but this is easily one of the best of recent memory. I think Sam was really good, but Sam is such a simplistic character to pull off that Krampus, I never thought they would do it, so it's very exciting that we got Krampus. But Miss Mercy, in terms of the originality of that character and not being licensed, is probably my favorite, but Krampus, come on. I had to say Krampus. So, whew, that was a mouthful. I just ranked every spirit prop, but now it's your turn. So in the comments below, or in your own video, better yet, rank the Spirit Halloween animatronics, or at least comment your top 5. I want to hear from you. This is going to be a great season, you guys. I am very much looking forward to seeing Spirit Halloween in stores and seeing the spooky themes of Reaper's Island. So stay tuned, stay spooky, and remember, as always, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.